Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the fundamental differences between men and women. And I want to start off by saying, yes, men and women are different. You need to leave! Not just physically, but behaviorally and psychologically. And I'm sure you've noticed this. They have different values, they have different brains, they process stimuli differently, and they have different behavior. This is undeniable. But the question is this caused by biology or is it caused by social norms and culture? This is a highly debated fact, surprisingly, but in this video, I'm going to show you the answer using evolutionary psychology. So first, we got to understand that humans and other sexual animals have evolved different sexual roles, which result in different patterns of sexual behavior. Recently, this biological basis of sexual roles has been downplayed to support the egalitarian perspective, which comes from the idea of the tabula rasa, which means blank slate in Latin. This is the idea that humans are born without any natural psychological traits and that all aspects of one's personality, social and emotional behavior, knowledge, or sapience are later imprinted by one's environment onto the mind. But here's the thing. The tabula rasa or blank slate is bullshit. Humans are born with psychological traits coded into their DNA, and I will prove it to you in this video. Now, this all boils down to the question of nature versus nurture. Are these behavioral differences between the sexes caused by biology, or are they caused by social norms and culture? Before we actually dive into the differences between men and women, I want to explain why there are two sexes rather than just one, so we can get to the root cause of the differences between the sexes. Not all organisms on the planet are either male or female. Hermaphrodites are organisms that have both male and female sexual organs, which means that a member of a hermaphroditic species can mate with any other member of that same hermaphroditic species. Giant clams, for example, are hermaphrodites, which means that they can bang any other giant clam that they find. Lucky them. Humans, unfortunately, are not hermaphrodites, but are instead gonochoric, which means that we can only reproduce with members of the opposite sex. But why did humans and most larger animals become separated into males and females in the first place? Let's all agree that it would be much easier if we could fuck 100% of the population rather than just 50%. All of the earliest life forms on the planet were asexual organisms, which means that they did not use sexual reproduction to reproduce. Over time, some of these asexual organisms developed into hermaphrodites, which do use sexual reproduction to reproduce, but there's no distinction between the male and the female since they all have the same parts. Now, some members of the hermaphrodites would accumulate these mutations, just like all organisms, in the specific genes that coded for the reproductive cells or gametes. Now, the mutations that led to larger-sized gametes would lead to a greater likelihood of reproduction because larger gametes have more resources that allow them to survive. Over time, these hermaphrodites developed larger gametes, but not all of them. As the evolutionary race for larger gametes continued, a second strategy emerged, which took advantage of the fact that some members of the species had larger gametes. Since some members of the species produced larger gametes or egg cells with more abundant resources, an individual of the same species that produced smaller gametes could take advantage of this fact and conserve their resources in their gametes, but still have reproduction occur, which caused something to happen. Some members of the species developed larger and less gametes, and other members of the species produced smaller but more abundant gametes. As this differential increased, a point was reached where only large gamete individuals could mate with small gamete individuals. Now, this is precisely when the male and female separation emerged. No longer could any individual mate with any other individual of the same species. And this differential size of gametes or reproductive cells is called anisogamy, and it's the fundamental basis of almost all differences between males and females. Whether it's the difference in swipe rate on Tinder between men and women, or the difference in bone density, it can all be traced back and explained using the relative size difference and scarcity of the gametes. While anisogamy is an ultimate root cause for the differences between males and females, we must also talk about the gestational burden of females, or the obligation for women to carry around the baby in their womb for 9 months to help it develop. This is also a root cause for behavior that's unrelated to anisogamy, since there are species in which the male gives birth, and there are also species in which the animal lays an egg rather than gestation. As mammals, women are obligated to carry around the baby for 9 months and expend their own resources and energy for the baby. This has a big impact on the behavioral patterns of females, like parental investment and risk-taking, since they are the ones that have the obligation of defending the baby at this time. With that being said, let's get into the differences between males and females. And one more thing, to preface this, I gotta say, these are not concrete rules, but they apply to populations in general on average. This is why we call male behaviors masculine and female behaviors feminine, because not every woman is entirely feminine and not every man is entirely masculine. However, I would argue that masculine traits in men and feminine traits in women are caused by biological drives, while the opposite are usually caused by socialization and modern ideological movements. First thing, men have more variance in traits. This is called the greater male variability hypothesis. Since women have the scarcer resource, which are eggs, women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are forced to compete for reproductive access. In a 50-50 population approximately, one man can impregnate multiple women, which means that other men are not reproducing at the same time, and likely their DNA will be lost in the gene pool. This makes men the more expendable sex, which means that male lives are less important for population replacement than females. As a result, evolution has made men the more experimental sex, with slightly more variation between men and women on average. For example, if you look at the IQ graph between men and women, they have the same average. Males and females' IQs on average are the same, but what you'll notice is that the bell curve for men is wider and more flat, whereas for women, it's a straight peak. This means that not only are there more male retards, but there are also more male geniuses. Women just have a higher chance of being average because there's less variance in their traits. This greater male variability hypothesis is observed in many normally distributed traits like height, weight, muscle, aggression, risk-taking, and even other things like salaries. Number 2, men are physically larger, stronger, more aggressive, more violent, and more athletic than women on average. This is due to the high intersexual competition of males and their role as the protector. Men with these qualities were better able to survive, fight off predators, and compete for status. Now, you would expect that men would become ultra-aggressive if these qualities are good for them, but the reason that they're not ultra-aggressive or violent are because these traits become too antisocial and can lead to ostracism and negative consequences. Number 3, men care more about things while women care more about people. This is because men had to invent things like tools in order to stay alive and ascend status hierarchies to improve their chances of survival and reproduction. Women, on the other hand, do the same by building strong relationships and communities. This means that men's communication has become more direct and solution-oriented, while women's communication is more emotional and feelings-oriented. Men tended to extend their lineage by solving problems and accumulating wealth, while women extended their lineage by building strong networks and being good with people. This explains why men tend to dominate fields like engineering, while women tend to dominate fields like nursing. It all has to do with our natural, instinctive biology. Now, I got some advice for the men on this one. Since men's communication is geared towards problem solving and women's communication is geared towards emotional bonding, when you're in a relationship with a woman, you need to keep this in mind. If your girlfriend or wife ever tells you about her problems, never offer her solutions, unless if she is explicitly asking for it. This is because 99% of the time, if she's telling you her problems, she does not want a solution from you, she just wants emotional support. Number 4, women tend to resolve their conflicts more covertly, while men tend to resolve their conflicts overtly. What this means is that women tend to gossip, spread rumors, go behind another woman's back, or derogate their intersexual competition, while men will be more obvious. They will assert their dominance, they will signal status, and use things like violence to achieve their goals. For example, if one man kills another man, there's not much reduction of reproductive capacity since that one man that survived can impregnate multiple women. This is why men are more competitive. It's all due to nature. Female on female homicide, however, would reproduce their reproductive capacity with one less woman being in the population, which is why women developed less violent forms of conflict resolution. Number 5, women are more emotionally expressive while men are less emotionally expressive. And the key word here is expressive. I'm not saying that there are differences between emotionality between the sexes. I'm just saying that there's a difference in how they express their emotions. This is because when men express their emotions, it's generally an obstacle to gaining status or gaining wealth. While when women express their emotions, it tends to facilitate bonding and it's a good thing for them. But emotional expression can also be used as a weapon to manipulate. For example, crying to get what you want. Number 6, women are more selective with whom they date, while men are less selective. This is because of women's strategy, where they want the one best man that they can acquire, whereas men's strategy is to have as many good options as they can get. Men tend to care more about sexual variety, whereas women want the best single partner that they can get, a partner with good genes and a good provider and parent. Now this is just basic supply and demand. Women have the sexually scarcer resource of female eggs, which means that there's a lower supply of eggs, which also means that there's a high demand for eggs. Since eggs are in higher demand and women are in control of their eggs, they can be more selective with whom they enter relationships. Number 7, men prioritize beauty, youth, and fertility in women, while women tend to prioritize resources and stability in men. This is because women are specialized for the reproductive role evolutionarily. This means that the most valuable women tend to be younger because they have more years left in their fertile window, and men also prefer women that are more beautiful because they often have the best genes and the highest fertility rates. Men are specialized for the survivalist role or protector role, which means that the most valuable men are the ones that are high status or display high status and also have resources so that they can protect their family. Low status and low resource men are not very good at surviving because they don't have the resources to protect their family. While looks still do matter in men, they're just slightly less valued in women because good genes don't matter if you can't survive and protect your family. Number 8, men and women cheat for different reasons. Most men will fuck any attractive woman. Men could be in a happy, loving relationship and they would still cheat. And this is because men cheat out of lust generally, and they have less emotional tie to their cheating partner. This is essentially just a sneaky way for men to spread their seed to other women if they're in a monogamous relationship. Now this could be problematic for the spouse if the man decides that his new woman is better and decides to leave her, but this is rarer than for women. Now as for women, women tend to require a greater emotional bond before engaging in sex with a man. And what this means is that female cheating is a greater indicator that the woman is falling out of love or she's losing that emotional bond with her current partner. Now, in order to explain female infidelity, there are 2 different hypotheses that are used to explain it. There's the dual mating hypothesis and the mate switching hypothesis. The dual mating hypothesis essentially states that women will marry someone who is good at parenting or is a stable provider, while they will cheat on a man with better genes. Essentially, she will marry a beta and cheat on him with an alpha. If this hypothesis is true, that means that she'd be using 2 different men to achieve the best evolutionary strategy possible. She gets good genes from one guy and good parent from another guy. Essentially, the provider will be cucked to raise the child from another man with better genes and without knowing. The mate switching hypothesis states that women will cheat in order to replace their current partner and to secure a better partner. Number 9. Men usually trade resources or survival value, while women trade sexual opportunities or reproductive value in sexual relationships. This is why men pay on the first date. Many will argue that this is just a social norm, but it's a social norm that's rooted in biology. People will hate to hear this, but all relationships are transactional. If we could survive and reproduce and be happy alone, we definitely would, because other individuals are always a source of chaos and could be potentially harming to us. We get into relationships because we need each other for different things, and we need to trade these things to get what we want. Think about why porn is such a common male addiction and why OnlyFans is dominated by women. Women are trading their simulated sexual value for money and resources, essentially. Number 10, men's mating strategy is to spread the seed as much as possible, while women's mating strategy is called hypergamy. Men's instincts are essentially to fuck as many attractive women as they can. Some men who are more self-indulgent will be players, while other men will commit to their single best option. And here's the thing, lower status men only have the option of committing to one single woman or being monogamous, while higher status men tend to have the option to choose polygamy or monogamy. For women, hypergamy states that women want to fuck the alpha guy with the best genes and settle with the beta provider who's a good parent and stable person. Women generally tend to want a higher socioeconomic status man, whereas men just want the most attractive, non-crazy woman possible. Number 11. Men have greater sex drives, while women have greater emotional bonding drives. Women have a greater proclivity for emotional bonding to acquire commitment from the best man that they can get, so they will have protection and resources for them and their children. Men have a greater sex drive than women so that they can impregnate more women, or so that they can impregnate one woman more often. Number 12, women care more about mate quality, while men care more about mate quantity. By now in the video, this should be pretty obvious since women have the scarcer gametes, so they care more about who they give those gametes to, while men have more plentiful gametes, so they care less about quality and more about quantity. All right, well there you have it, 12 differences between men and women. This wasn't a comprehensive list, but I think it covers the most important differences between the sexes. Since you made it to the end of the video, I hope you're better able to understand why humans act the way that they do. And with this information, I really hope that you'll be less frustrated with people and you'll be more capable of getting what you want out of relationships and in life. If you disagreed with any part of this video, make sure you tell me about it in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe as we got more videos coming soon. Peace.